Hey everybody, welcome to the Tolkien Collector's Guide. We're here today with Jordan Rannells to talk about his Long Expected Soundscape, which is an awesome multi-audio experience that pairs with The Lord of the Rings. And so, Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Definitely. Thanks for having me. The project is 63 hours worth of content that runs alongside the Lord of the Rings audiobooks. And so that requires a little bit more explanation, I think. It's music that I've written, sound effects that I've created and gathered, and ambient environments like forest sounds and things like that I've gone out and recorded as well. And I've placed them and lined them up and kind of orchestrated it so that it runs parallel to the Andy Serkis audiobooks. Everything happens at the right times. Things come in and out and change, time of day, things like that. You'll hear, the Balrog. You'll hear arrows fly by, all this kind of stuff, and it's all rendered in 3D audio. So you'll hear things move around you. You'll hear horses gallop by, things like that, and you just can line it up straight with your copy of the audiobook, and it's kind of a fully immersive experience. I always say that it's kind of like an extended version of the movies, you could say. And a lot of people listen to it just on its own as well. They just, without Andy, they put it on, and you can say, oh, there's Gandalf's fireworks, or there's the Balrog. You can hear all this stuff, and for people that know the story like us, you can point those things out and be like, oh, that's so cool, this is happening, or that's happening, and you can. It's kind of a new way of experiencing the story.
I've been following along as you've been creating this. It's been fantastic to see your creativity and the work you've put in, the recording sessions, and other performers and artists contributing, and voice actors, and all of that. This is something. It's been a year in actual production. I think you ran a Kickstarter to help fund the effort to do this, and the final experience is now complete for The Lord of the Rings. You've released it for sale on your website, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And in a moment, or in a little bit, we'll get to some samples to give people some idea of what we're listening to and experience. And I do want to reiterate, this is paired with Andy Serkis's performances. It does not include it, so you have to have the audiobook yourself. And then, Jordan, why don't you talk a little bit about the procedure to play them together?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not included. They're separate things, but it does line up exactly. So it's really simple how you would play the two together. If you have a computer and you want to just do it in the easiest way, then you can just push play on the audiobook, and then after he says the chapter title, you push play on the soundscape, and then they line up. It's as easy as that. Now, the next question that comes with that is, how would I get it on my phone, or, when I'm out and about, how do I get it so that I can take it with me? And it really just requires like the most basic recording software that you could ever find. And you just put your copy of the audiobook in there, and then you put the soundscape right after, just like what I said, and then you can export a new file, and they're put together and synced up, just like that.
Why don't we start off, I think, with an Andy sample. So this is pre-mixed, just so you can hear the soundscape and Andy together, just to give, what the experience is intended to be. And then we'll play some other samples of just your work and talk a little bit about that. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go.
A bitter chill came into the air. Slowly in the east, the dark faded to a cold grey. Red shafts of light leapt above the black walls of the Emyn Wheel, far away upon their left. Dawn came clear and bright. A wind swept across their path, rushing through the bent grasses. Suddenly, Shadowfax stood still and neighed. Gandalf pointed ahead. "Look!" he cried, and they lifted their tired eyes. Before them stood the mountains of the south, white-tipped and streaked with black. The grasslands rolled against the hills that clustered at their feet. and flowed up into many valleys still dim and dark, untouched by the light of dawn, winding their way into the heart of the great mountains. Immediately before the travellers, the widest of these glens opened like a long gulf among the hills.
Here we go.
Love it. That was
Great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
A lot, doesn't it? It adds a lot to just listening to Andy, because Andy by himself, I think, obviously, if you're a fan of films and things, one of the things you are missing is the background sounds, and music, but it's not just that, it's the sound effects.
Yeah.
And it's,
yeah.
Jordan, for those who are fans of the films and maybe they haven't read Lord of the Rings for the first, and they're trying the audiobook, like maybe they haven't read the actual book themselves and they're trying the audiobook. Are there links to the Jackson films that they're going to hear, or is there going to be any sort of familiarity there?
Yeah, good question. So I actually have a few people that are experiencing the books for the first time with the soundscape, which is really interesting to hear what they think. But so none of the music is, directly referencing the Howard Shore music, of course.
Yeah, it's not Howard Shore's score, right?
Yeah, it's original stuff. But, by following the same instrumentation, the Gondor themes are a lot of brass. The Shire stuff is a lot of strings and flutes. By doing things like that, it feels familiar, I think, to a lot of people that are used to the movies. So, the experience is meant to feel the same as watching the movies without directly copying it, I think,
Yeah, and you could hear in that, even in just that short sample, you had the horse sounds and the wind and the experience of being outdoors was there, layered in with the music. And I haven't looked at your website recently, but when you started this project, the goal was to have the ambiance and the music all separately usable if you desired to. Is that still true, or is that all included?
Absolutely, yeah. When you purchase the soundscape, you get access to two different ways of kind of getting the files, I guess you could say. You can just download them from the Google Drive that you'll get access to. And in that, you can have the full version, the score only, the ambience and sound effects only, the ambience only, or the score and ambience only. So there's a bunch of different ways. But you can also just access it as a podcast feed. So you can just, on your phone anywhere, you can scroll through and choose the version that you like and check it out. I know that a lot of people have been listening to the whole experience as their first go through, but then listening to the score only after for going about their day or something like that, So it's got multiple uses, people using it for D&D games and things like that. So
that's a good idea. Using it for a D&D game or like a Frosthaven or something like that. Yeah.
For Lotro even, things
for
like
Lotro, things like that.
I think for any probably for any general fantasy reading, you could probably, if you wanted something in the background,
you just want to
you can listen to that.
Yeah, you just want to crack open Smith of Wooten Major or something like that and put the soundscape on.
There you go.
There's some good stuff there. Yeah, like when I'm working, I can't have an audiobook playing myself. I can't focus on the words and hear Andy talking, etc., while I'm concentrating on other stuff. But the music and ambiance background is so nice to just pick a mood based on a chapter or a subsection of the book.
Quite a few moods to choose from.
Exactly. You've got the length of the circus books is I want to say about 20 hours. I don't remember what the full playthrough of his Lord of the Rings recording is.
It's if you put all three of them together, it's around 63. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm thinking of just one of the books or one of the volumes. Yeah.
So the new Silmarillion's like 18 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you do the appendices or
not yet? Not yet.
Do you have plans to do the appendices, Jordan?
I would definitely. Yeah, I would definitely like to do that.
You're going to do like Aragorn and Arwen and stuff, and kind of the stuff like that.
I mean, the Arwen theme is one of my favorite themes that I wrote, and I only got to use it like a handful of times. So it would be really cool to do some of that stuff.
I was very disappointed that Andy Serkis didn't do my favourite part of the Lord of the Rings, which is a note on the text. So I'd love you to do that as well. That'd be quite nice. A note on the text. Yeah, the reason why I like the note on the text is the only time my name gets mentioned.
Yeah, it's interesting that Serkis he didn't do the note on the text, but for the Silmarillion he did letter 121. It's kind of interesting that he chose to do that.
He did the introduction as well. For the,
he did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to get him to go back and add some more material to his Lord of the Rings. Well, so why don't we play another little sample of your soundscape? Do you have a preference for one we should pull up?
So this will be without Andy, so you can experience what that's like and kind of just imagine in your head the scene that's happening. So let's do the Shelob sample. That'd be cool.
All right. So before I hit play on this, is this after they've met, like the battle scene, or is this leading up to that, when they're in the caves?
It's right in the midst of the battle.
Awesome. All right, so I'm ready for it now.
Dragging Frodo away here.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Definitely getting Shelob's Lair vibes.
Here's a little horn for Sam. And then we're going to get the big brass for Shelob's theme.
Imagine the narration building up as the tension.
Yeah, that's good, Jordan. Very, very menacing but grandiose.
Yeah.
You can tell that something nasty is probably about to happen.
Yeah. Must be some sort of demon in spider-like form.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Is there a whispering going on here?
There's some hissing kind of vocals, yeah, which is one of my voice role people did that, and I turned it into a terrible spider sound. Tried to have this little tiny horn up against the big orchestra.
How long, for a segment like this, how long did you spend composing? Like, what's the process?
The process of the composition, like I wrote all of the themes first, and then I kind of addressed the mood of each section, and kind of the length of the scene as if it were a movie, right? And so the full kind of segment of this scene is about 8 minutes long. We won't play it all, but probably this section was probably like a day on its own, just doing this one moment. Some moments are a lot easier because there's not as much happening, but something like this, it needs the time for sure.
Yeah. definitely.
And it's hard not to get into it. Okay, I got to move on to the next part now. Oh, there's the stab. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think if you're reading along with that, even if you're not listening to Andy do it, that's going to add an awful lot more tension. And there's a lot there anyway, but it's just adding to it. It's not.
Yeah.
And that does raise a good point as well, is that we talked about listening just to the soundscape or listening with Andy, but you can also listen while you're reading. And, the question that always comes up when that happens is, what if I read too fast or too slow kind of thing? And it's a good question, but through kind of the research and, tests that I've done, because Andy is performing the audiobook, he's not just reading it start to finish as fast as he can. He's really taken his time. It's pretty hard to read as slow as Andy, I've discovered. Or slower, we'll say.
Yeah, Andy Serkis reads really slowly.
Really. And it's hard. You almost don't notice it if you're just listening. But if you really compare it to your own reading speed, it's really slow. Which is good, though, because it means that you'll always only be ahead of him. Mm-hmm. So that means that if you read that, Sam stabs Shelob or something like that, and you're not there yet in the audio, you just have to wait for it to happen and then continue on, right? So you can kind of pause, listen for a bit, you hear it happen, and then you kind of go on your way, right?
Mm-hmm. Could I, if I wanted to read faster with it, could I speed up the sound? Would that ruin sort of the effects of it?
Yeah, it might have some issues with the, like it might distort the audio, but in the kind of the beauty of this project is that I want it to evolve over time and continue to have variations. So I'm going to have a faster version, a double time version that will probably be better suited for people reading on their own. Mm-hmm. But I'm also going to release, slightly different speeds for different versions of the audiobooks. I was even playing around with tests of, the French version of the audiobook. How would that line up? It's, it's close. You'd have to adjust it just a little bit, and it would sync up as well. So things like that are on the horizon for sure. So all the big heavy lifting work is done. I just have to have some time to kind of redo these subtle changes,
You'll get there. How about like the older audiobooks in English?
Yeah. That one is...
He's faster reader, isn't he, I think
yeah, just by maybe like 10% or so, a little bit faster. So that, again, shouldn't take too long to be able to release that version. I really like that version, so it'll be cool to release that and see how it feels in comparison,
Yeah. And I was picturing the Shelob sample we were just going through and taking the music out in my mind and imagining that as like a D&D, ambiance track to play during a battle scene or something like that. Exactly. It's just, there's a lot going on that's blended in there that comes out in the audio only, or sorry, the ambiance only.
Yeah. And that's a cool thing about the soundscape, was trying to decide what scenes get music, what scenes don't, what scenes need the ambience to be more up front, things like that. We'll listen to another sample in a minute with the Pelennor Fields, and a good chunk of that, the beginning of that chapter, is just sound effects, just the sound of the battle, the kind of chaos of it, which is really cool. But it was fun to decide, where certain things would come to the front and things like that. So
cool.
It was cool.
Yeah, should we dive into that?
Yeah. So this
is
definitely. This is a big moment. This is.
Oh, is it?
Wait
a minute. That sounds familiar. That battle sounds familiar.
are my favorite.
Oh. Am I hearing the Oliphants there somewhere, or?
In the distance, probably, yeah.
Yeah, in the distance.
Gondorian horns in there.
That's a variation of a Hobbit theme that has grown since we would have heard it from the beginning.
Very cool.
We were hearing we were hearing the Witch King a while ago, right?
Yeah. And then this is Rohan in battle. These strings.
There's a lot going on. I really like it.
Yeah. This is one of the biggest chapters for sure. Here we go.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's great. As I said earlier, it does really, I think, add a lot to it. It's a bit like, it's like, for instance, one of my favourite adaptations, obviously, is the BBC radio series. The reason I like that is because they've got exactly what you've just done, which is basically added sound effects and added music to it. And I think that is something that that enhances the story. And having the full text, there's no other way really you could do it. You couldn't do a film or a radio series and have the whole text.
Yeah,
what you've done is just something that's really good, and it's really interesting thing to do.
Ever since watching the movies from the beginning, I'm sure all of us are like, we want the full version as a movie, and this is, as close as I could get to doing that. So that was the goal.
Yeah, and these enhanced the enhancements that Jordan has done is really, really fantastic. It's a different experience if you're not familiar with anything like this before. I know, years ago I stumbled upon the Phil Dragish Lord of the Rings audiobook, and I remember listening to that for the first time, and that's not an official, that's a sort of like a pirated sort of thing. And I just remember really, really enjoying that. And I think this is better than that original thing that Dragish did years ago.
Well, Phil is on the soundscape in multiple different roles.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's in there.
Do we have a Phil Dragish, Tom Bombadil sighting? We do. Excellent.
Fantastic.
Had to do it. He's in each volume at least once. So you can see if you can find him here and there.
Got your Phil ears out, because it's great to find those little Easter eggs hiding in there.
And all of those Nazgul screams and things like that we heard were from people that, just people with their phones that were kind of
screaming.
As part of the Kickstarter, there was a voice roll tier that people could go for, and so everybody had from big moments like that to saying stuff in the Prancing Pony and things like that, you know, just to bring it to life.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I would love every audiobook to be like this, the full soundscape experience. And
I think the problem is, though, that it takes long enough to record the things anyway, and you never really finish if you were just. Whereas Jordan's, the amount of time you spent, and if you say take Andy Serkis, how long he took to record it, and add it all together, it's just a huge amount of time and effort, and it's really good. Yeah, it's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't really see audio books actually doing that. Well, they do occasionally do them. They do.
Yeah, there's some kind of enhanced things like Star Wars audiobooks do that somewhat, but the score and the sound effects being specific to the moments and like specifically designed to each moment is not really a thing that I've seen too much. So,
yeah, I mean, what Jordan's doing, what you're doing, Jordan, it's a labor of love. You know, you're obviously doing this for not just for the monetary benefit, but just because you love it. And I think, you know, publishers like HarperCollins and stuff, they're just looking at it from a bottom line sort of thing. And it like what Andrew was saying, that would increase the cost a lot for them to do all that. So there'd have to be a lot of motivation for them.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully some people listen to this and get motivated and start making some noise.
Yeah.
But
just re-release it with both together. And,
that would be an awesome experience because
it's already done. Work's already done.
It's already done.
Exactly.
The cool part is that it would literally be that easy to just put the two of them together and then re-release it. Like it takes is the time to re-export them together.
Yeah.
And it would be done, ready to go.
Yeah. So, we've talked a little bit about some enhancements and tweaks and things that you want to do on this project, but you've got other things in mind as well, right?
I do.
I'm looking forward to seeing what those might be.
Yeah, I have September 22nd, I'm going to do the next Kickstarter for The Hobbit and The Silmarillion, kind of as a joint thing. Not two separate things, but same Kickstarter.
So you have to read The Hobbit and The Silmarillion at the same time.
Yeah. So that'll be very different in a lot of ways, but really exciting in a lot of ways. I'm really excited to do the sound design for The Hobbit. I think that'll be really fun. And I'm really excited to do the music for The Silmarillion because that's going to be a huge challenge, obviously.
Well, the first chapter's all about music, isn't it? So you've got to have some really good music in for that one.
That is a good point.
I think my plan is to do that as the final thing.
Yes, let's
build up to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are diametrically opposed projects as far as tone and heaviness, weight.
Yes.
Well, because you've got two different things you've got to do, haven't you, for that one? Because there's Melkor's one coming in as well as actually trying to, that'll be a real challenge, I think, to try and get two that work together and don't.
And in an interesting way, in a way, it'll be interesting to take the music that I've written and kind of, go backwards in time and, come up with different versions of it. There's little hints at things in the Lord of the Rings soundscape that can be built out to full things in the Silmarillion. I'm excited to even just come up with variations on Hobbit things for the Hobbit. In many meetings, I believe, where we're talking about Beorn just a little tiny bit, but he has a theme that plays in the Lord of the Rings, so I'll take that and bring it over to the Hobbit and embellish it and things like that. So, and it'll be fun to I'm going to use Corey Olsen's Exploring the Hobbit a lot, probably for reference. I would really love to have like a Toucan Pagans theme that kind of fight each other almost the whole time through, and then eventually end up with the Bilbo theme that I have for Lord of the Rings. Eventually end up getting there. So
and you could for things like the Silmarillion. Sauron is in the Silmarillion, so you could look at like what you did for him, and then you could sort of like and you could, maybe that could be inspiration for Melkor, or something like that. So there's,
yeah. And again, that's just the music. There's huge other things to do as well. And what does Mirkwood sound like? What does Beorn's house sound like? Things like that. So lots to do, but I think it's going to be a blast.
I'm really looking forward to it. So, and for the Kickstarter, will there again be opportunities for people to have higher level participatory roles?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
It'll be interesting to see, how those change or what kind of opportunities there are. But the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I point out in that Kickstarter is that, if you sign up for a voice role and like the Lord of the Rings soundscapes can always be built up even more. So, if someone wants to toss their voice into a battle in Pelennor or something like that, then they can still do that.
Yeah, I feel like these are like living audio files. Like every time I go back and look, Jordan, you're telling us like, oh, hey, I've re-uploaded this.
Yeah. And that's part of that is because it's so much content, and I mean, it's just me doing most of it. So, I have some people that listen to things here and there and check things maybe, but it would take 63 hours worth for someone to go through from start to finish and check things for me. So I kind of have to do it myself. So, people might be like, hey, can we add this here? Or can we, we're missing this small horn here or something like that. And then I can jump in and put it in and re-upload it, and it's all ready to go. And, as the technology improves, I can keep doing that too. I have part of the next Kickstarter will hopefully be early access to a head tracking version of it, where if you have Apple AirPods, or I'm sure that technology will be more widespread soon, but if you have the head tracking version, you can put it on and you can kind of look around, right? The environment will stay where it is, and you can like look over to where Shadowfax is or whatever, and hear it more clearly. So that'll be an even more immersive version of it. So it just keeps going,
Oh, yeah. No, when we were playing some of these samples, I was closing my eyes a couple of times just because it really pulls you in. Even just here when we're doing this podcast, it's stereo only, right? We're not getting the full experience, and it's still fantastic to just...
Well, it is. It's not just stereo, is it? What is? It's Dolby Atmos, is it? That you?
Yeah. It's mixed in Dolby Atmos, and that presents a lot of interesting opportunities for how to release it, because what we are normally listening to on the podcast feed and things like that is something called binaural audio. So it's simulated 3D. It's still a stereo audio file, but it's simulated 3D. So it's far better. But I have versions coming that will be just straight up stereo. So if you want to play it over the car speakers or, something like that, then it'll work. But I do have access to the full Atmos file. So if you have like a 7.1.4 speaker setup or something like that, it'll play everything as it should in that full setup. So if you rent out a movie theater and give them these files, it'll work still.
That's the high tier, is you get Jordan.
Yeah, exactly.
You get movie theater.
The screen is just black the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's completely dark in there. You just listen.
Yeah. Can we take a moment? I've got it on the background. I'm going to pull it up to the foreground. The artwork that you had for this, is that your own?
Yep, just kind of sketches that I've done per chapter. They're not all finished yet, but you can see some chapter specific artwork there. So that will populate, like when you pull up the chapter on your podcast feed, you'll get the chapter art with it as well. So I haven't finished Two Towers and Return of the King yet, but you can see some...
Oh, yeah. We got the ferry, and we've got Prancing Pony just right in front of us right now. It's I see a Black Rider. There's all sorts of cool stuff in there. So Yeah, this is the whole package. I was really excited when you launched the Kickstarter to join in and help out and follow along. It's never complete until you say it's complete, but it is released, so you can get all 3 volumes available now from your website. I'll put the link down in the show notes.
I'll probably have a promo code down there as well for people, so definitely check that out.
Good.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah, it's been great talking with you, Jordan. I've like I said, it's one of my favorite things that came out this year as far as Tolkien releases, even though it's not an official HarperCollins release, but it pairs so perfectly with the Circus audio today, which I also have and love. Andy does a great job reading it, and this enhances it tenfold, I think, for just enjoying the books and listening through.
Well, I appreciate it, and I have a Discord server, I'll say, for people that purchase, or even if you haven't purchased yet, you can join the Discord and kind of see what people think. And there's a how-to guide there shows you step by step on how to line the 2 things up and get your own version. So it's super easy, but I'm also available anytime if people want to, just hop on a Zoom call and get their copy synced up. Then it's usually pretty straightforward. So
yeah, because that sounds good, because I think some people, I don't think you need to think, it's too complicated. It doesn't sound, it's a bit of complication, but it sounds like there's plenty of help there if you get
yeah, if you haven't done it before, it can be a little bit intimidating because you might have to get some software or something, but I usually just jump on a Zoom call and I can remote control and almost do it myself and then say, there you go, it's ready to go.
What's the name of the Discord server, Jordan? Like, if people want to join,
I can post that link in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
perfect. We'll drop that in, and HarperCollins, if you're listening, this little bit of friction, I think we can eliminate if you just officially release these as a sidebar.
It's ready to go.
It's ready to go, and I think for the amount of labor involved on their side, being essentially zero. Someday, I hope something like that could come about, because just that little bit of friction slows a few people down, but it's so worth it to get these paired
and
up.
The beauty of it too is that the work is so little, but also you then just have 2 versions. Like you have the normal version and the enhanced version.
So they can sell it twice. That's great.
Yeah.
HarperCollins never sells 2 versions.
They have a firm policy, only one of each.
Oh yeah. So no, it's great. Thanks again. It's been great having you here. And
Thanks so much.
Check out the show notes, everybody, for links to the Discord, to his website, and
the first chapter in its entirety is on my YouTube, so you can get a full taste of it first, and then see what you want to do from there.
Awesome, perfect.
Well, thank you.
Good to talk to you again, Jordan.
It's a great project, and good luck with the summary and the Hobbit.
Thank you. Yeah, excited.